Good afternoon and welcome to the Franz Edelman competition. My name is Ann Robinson. I'm the chair of this year's competition. I ask that you all take a minute to silence your cell phones and minimize any noise as this session is being recorded. As a note of order, each team has 40 minutes to present, followed by 10 minutes from the judging panel. Please join me in welcoming the New York Department of Transportation with RPI.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I am Stacy Hodge, the Director of the Office of Freight Mobility at the New York City Department of Transportation. I am pleased to be here today to represent the department and share our work on the New York City's Off-Hour Deliveries program, a business and community-friendly sustainability program. I am joined here today by our academia partner, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, RPI, Dr. Jose Holguinberas, and Professor Jeff Witovich. New York City DOT and RPI have been working together with our private and public sector partners to implement off-hour deliveries in a complex city with 8.4 million people and all of them having opinions. So we have to take a very strategic, incremental approach as we try to transform our city. We're going to share 5 key takeaways with you today: our implementation strategy, the impact value of the program, the technical solutions used, the difficulties we had to overcome, and the transportability of this program that has been realized around the world. World-class cities. Many of us have set this ambition for our cities. We want to have livable communities. We would like to have cycling be a part of our life, reliable transit, and plazas where we can share time with friends and family. In 2008, New York City began transforming how we use our roadway space to improve livability. We added plazas and attracted more foot traffic, which increased sales at adjacent properties. We added more bus lanes to improve the travel time for buses and their reliability, to encourage more people to use transit. We created bike share programs to try to get persons to try using alternate modes. Between 2010 and 2015, we added 370,000 more residents to that 8.4 million. Tourism rose 61%. to 58 million visitors. Increased population and tourism generates more demand for truck traffic in the last mile. Urban deliveries have been steadily increasing, while our curb space has been decreasing, as I've described. Our private sector partners have shared data with us showing that deliveries to residential sections of Manhattan over the past 5 years have increased by 30%. While deliveries to commercial segments have been relatively flat. This means that the city has to approach the deliveries to the curb in a more innovative way to address this 30% increase. We will show you today how off-hour deliveries is a solution to the problem of limited curb access during regular business hours. There are approximately 9,000 food and retail establishments in Manhattan alone. Food and retail has been identified by research by RPI as the key targets for the off-hour delivery program. One of the first steps we take is to sit down with a receiver, like this hotel I'm illustrating here, an actual case study in Manhattan, and determine how many truck deliveries do they have coming, then determine if they have any physical constraints to shifting to the off-hour, and working with them to work that out. In corridors where truck delivery demand is not managed, double parking results. It also creates conflicts between pedestrians and cyclists as trucks work to make their deliveries. Many of the trucking companies who approached us to join the off-hour delivery program were really interested in reducing their parking tickets. It is typical for a truck to get about $750 to $1,000 in tickets per month per truck. When thinking about a world-class city, we compare our buses, our plazas, our airports, our air quality, how many miles of bike lanes we've put in, but are we also looking at the innovative last-mile urban freight strategies we're using? This slide shows a location in Manhattan that was a part of our off-hour delivery program. This is a daytime picture. You can see the congestion. If you were a truck driver trying to make a delivery here, you may have to go around the block a few times before you can find a place to make your delivery. This is that same location at 5 a.m. in the morning. So now you have no competition. You have hardly any pedestrians or cyclists to be in conflict with. This is another participating location. It's a hotel that has a restaurant. The trucks need to bring food to those restaurants and have a difficulty getting to the curb, competing with taxis and other users and pedestrians who are using the sidewalks during the day. This is that same hotel at about 5 a.m. The management of the hotel would not allow that driver to go in the front door like he is in this picture during regular hours. But by allowing him to do that in the off hour, he saves a considerable amount of time. RPI provided GPS loggers to all of the participating trucking companies who were in off hours, so we have real data on how long it took for them to make deliveries. This location could have taken an hour and a half in the regular hours and reduced to 20 minutes in the off hour. I will now describe our project history. I said transforming a city is an incremental approach. This project started in 2002 at the request of industry, who approached the state to investigate fostering night deliveries in New York City. RPI was the recipient of that work. This is a milestone along the way. They conducted research in 2013 focused in Manhattan, and then stakeholders in Brooklyn also had an interest, and so they expanded their work to Brooklyn. In 2007, that's when I joined the DOT. We had our Mayor Bloomberg very interested in congestion pricing, and we saw this program as a way to address congestion, and we started working with RPI. At that time, they had 33 voluntary participants. US DOT funded that pilot. By 2011, they had increased it to 400 voluntary participants, and New York City was actively pushing this policy with the mayoral support, putting off-hour deliveries within his Plan NYC program. After 2011, we continued to try to foster more interest and secure more resources, because at that time my office had 3 people, and we needed more people to be working on this if we were going to expand broadly. So we were successful. We had a change in administration in 2014 with Mayor Bloomberg, which meant spending time getting new people at City Hall aware of what we were doing. They adopted this program into their new policy called One NYC and actually gave us funding to hire 10 people. We hired them last year, and then they set a goal for us to add 900 new locations by 2019. So that team is now actively at work, and then our new commissioner issued a strategic plan last year, and off-hour deliveries has milestones in that strategic plan, and they gave us $2.4 million to implement low-noise monitoring strategies. So we have the organizational support at the city level, at the DOT, at US DOT, and now I'm going to show you Deputy Commissioner Replogle and Assistant Commissioner Ukebu, who will describe how these 2 mayoral strategies are being implemented by our team and have their full support.
Our department's just adopted a new strategic plan to help our transportation system become safer, cleaner, greener, and more sustainable and equitable. And that plan encompasses a number of different areas, including improving the efficiency and effectiveness of our freight system. We have more than 400 million tons a year of freight moving through and to and from our city every year, and most of that goes by truck. If we can help those truck deliveries move more quickly by shifting some of them out of the peak hours of congestion, we'll help all the traffic move more smoothly will help cut air pollution, and will help improve the efficiency of our economy. So our off-hour delivery program is a key element in our strategic plan to deliver better results for our communities. As part of that, we're also paying close attention to monitoring noise impacts and helping the shipping industry adopt low noise technologies. We're also working to monitor the impacts on communities and working with businesses to make sure that this helps aid their bottom line, reduce their shipping costs, and improve the reliability of services that they get delivered.
Well, the vision with regard to One NYC was really to review what the existing concerns we have now and make some forecasts into the future. It is projected that we'll gain 1 million people extra in population in the next 10 to 20 years. As the city grows, as people, we believe that transportation is a derived demand. People don't just travel just for the sake of it. Even on vacation, that's still a purpose to that travel. So in getting goods to whoever it is that asks for it, they have a reason for it. And in this case, then, we have the challenges of receiving the product when the people ask for it, and also for the deliverers, the trucking companies, to get to wherever they want to go. The problem is this: if everyone comes in at the same time, then we have a problem in that you're not going to have even more congestion, and that congestion will lead to delays in the citizens receiving their products, which leads to dissatisfaction with the economy. We believe that as transportation system managers, we want to do something about that. Because the reality is that taking these deliveries or encouraging to have these deliveries off hours at nighttime takes the pressure off the network. And that's really one of those goals that has been presented by the administration and DOT. We're working actively to ensure that we build a coalition of not just the operators, but also the trucking industry partners, so that we can receive these goods at the time that the customers demand it, and at the same time it removes pressure from the system and helps reduce congestion, reduces air pollution.
So Assistant Commissioner Ukebu mentioned partnerships. So partnerships are a key role in our success for this program. We had public sector, private sector, and academia partners. The public sector, once New York City DOT got involved, added credibility to what RPI had already been working on since 2002. If we send out a letter saying come to a meeting, it does have some pull. We also managed the relationship across other city agencies because we had to partner with other city agencies. For example, DEP has jurisdiction over noise policy. The private sector helped us with implementing this program because they ground truthed some of the things we were thinking about in how to implement. They also provided the confidential data to RPI that was needed, and RPI had the non-disclosure agreements because New York City DOT did not want to hold anyone's private sector data. Academia helped in fostering off-hour deliveries because they did the research and had the findings that I could then use to defend the research that was being done. RPI met one-on-one with the trucking companies and helped them plan their shift to the off-hour. RPI also monitored and implemented the performance using OR and MS tools. This was the first time that New York City had used this type of approach to deliver a program. Our research partners helped with funding. US DOT provided $2,000 per receiver location in incentives. NYCDOT also funded a trusted vendor program for RPI. VREF helped us with webinars and funding. We had a number of private sector businesses helping us. When you have a signature company like Whole Foods Market and Cisco and Duane Reade, they helped to bring other private sector persons to the table. As they became champions for us, when we approached new businesses. We also had business improvement districts. They would host breakfasts for us and invite stores and operators in their bid to come and learn about off-hour deliveries. And we also had trucking associations and the Chamber of Commerce as part of our industry advisory group. This is a quote from the Trucking Association of New York. They felt that this was such a unique collaboration between industry and government and academia, and that it was really helping us to be successful in this endeavor. I will now turn the presentation over to our partner, Jose Hulgan-Veras, who will describe the role of OS and MS in this program.
Well, it really gives me a great pleasure to have the opportunity to tell you a bit about the role played by Operation Research and Management Science in this important project. The contribution of OR and MS was, significant. It's sufficient to say that the prevailing wisdom at the time was that off-hour delivery was unworkable. After all, many cities in the world try off-hour deliveries and they fail to make off-hour deliveries a long-lasting program. In fact, cities like Dublin, Barcelona, and none other than Julius Caesar attempted to implement off-hour delivery without much success. And OR and MS provided the way to make it happen. The research was basically quite comprehensive. Basically, it involved multiple disciplines: game theory, econometrics, behavioral modeling, freight demand modeling, data mining, simulation optimization. In essence, it was a quite comprehensive work that encompassed multiple disciplines. Just to give you a sense, this is basically, this slide shows the breadth and number of publications that we produced by the team, and basically encompassing all the top journals in the field. In the area of game theory, we had to analyze the strategic interaction between carriers and receivers that determine the time of delivery. We found that this interaction conformed to the inappropriately named Battle of the Sexes game. That is a game in which there are two Nash equilibrium, in which in each of them the different actors favor a different solution. As you can see by looking at the payoff matrix, in which the first sign represents the impacts on the carrier and the second sign the impact on the receivers, in essence, receivers and carriers tend to have different inclination for the time of delivery. The implication is that since receivers are the ones that have the power in determining when deliveries are made, that we need to, that negative there in the green box, we need to make it a plus. We need to incentivize receivers to change behavior, and they will pull the truckers. Now, once we conclude that incentive to the receivers are needed, the question is, what kind of incentive? What industry sectors are going to be the most inclined to participate? What combination of incentives should we use to induce a long-lasting shift to the off hours? In essence, using a multi-method approach here that included in-depth interviews, focus groups, behavior surveys, behavioral modeling, et cetera, basically we are able to disentangle the role that different incentives could play. We settled on 4 different incentives, 2 of them of financial nature and 2 of them non-financial. Among the financial incentive, a one-time incentive from the private sector, shipping discounts from the carriers working in combination. But on top of that, we also studied the effectiveness of non-financial incentive, including public recognition to the companies that participate in the program, and also business support services for small enterprises that might need help on how to make their business better. And all this basically came to play a significant role. This table here shows the parameter of an ordinary logic that captures the attitudes of receivers towards the different incentive. As you can see in this table, a positive parameters signify a positive relation with accepting of our deliveries. A negative parameter indicates the opposite. The model revealed that there are 4 incentives, that all these incentives that we consider play a statistically significant role in inducing receivers to accept of our deliveries. We also found out that there are 4 industry sectors that are more sensitive than the rest of the industry to accept of our deliveries. And that was a good thing because it happens that these industry sectors produce between 40 to 60% of all the freight traffic in cities. In essence, these companies are also inclined to participate in the program. As Stacy mentioned, in Manhattan, there are more than 9,000 establishments in these groups. Now, what comes from this, what the net result of the net implication is that in essence, we need to have a multi-layer approach in which the public sector provides a one-time incentive and public recognition, the private sector contribute to the program by means of cheapest discounts, and academia and business groups create a trusted vendor program. In fact, we are now creating a program funded by the Energy Research and Development Agency to create a trusted vendor, to make it easy for receivers to accept deliveries in the night hours unassisted. We also found by means of OR and MS tools that the sectors that should be the focus of the study, and also we found that using geographically focused incentive will be most effective than spreading the incentive throughout the area. Now, a key component in the process was for the design of the implementation was to understand how receivers and carriers would react to the incentive, because in essence, we wanted to enact change in the areas where congestion was most acute. To do that, we need a realistic simulation of delivery tours based on reality that gives us a sense about what is happening and how these economic agents will react to the incentive. That basic simulation has to take into account the geography of deliveries, as you see in the slide to the left, and also the operational patterns that reflect in the data that we have pertaining to the operation of both receivers and carriers. And we capture that in what we call the behavioral micro-simulation. That is nothing more than an attempt to provide a realistic representation of deliveries to the study area. Basically, this process, in this slide what you have is a schematic of the BMS. The first step is to define the range of incentives that we're going to be testing. Because in essence, what we are doing is to send policy signals to these 10,000 of supply chains that day after day make deliveries to Manhattan. And the idea is to maximize the effectiveness of that policy effort. The second step is to generate this synthetic generation of delivery tools, by which we basically create these realistic representations of the delivery patterns in the area. The process starts basically by using the data that we have about delivery patterns to do a simulation. First, we model the origins of the deliveries, typically warehouses and distribution centers in the nearby areas. We again, using the data that we have, we simulate the location of receivers in that particular tour. And then basically at the end, we construct a tour. And we do that in a way that satisfies the constraints pertaining to deliveries by type of industry and in each zip code in the study area. After that, the next question is how receivers are going to react to policy. Because in essence, the ultimate goal is to model the behavior of the entire supply chain, receivers and carriers. To do that, we have to use the behavioral models that we showed before that basically estimate the probability that a receiver will accept of our deliveries in response to an incentive or combination of incentives. What that happens is that basically at the beginning, From the previous step, what we have is delivery tours that represent the base case conditions. In response to the incentive, as indicated here in this slide, some of the receiving agencies could say, well, yes to off-hour deliveries. But what that does is to present the carrier with a question. What should the carrier do? Should they basically do off-hour deliveries or not? And they will do that on the basis of cost. And that basically takes us to the process in which we try to model what is the behavior of the carriers. In response to the carriers, the carrier had to compute the delivery cost and determine whether or not it makes sense for them to do off-hour deliveries. We repeat for all delivery tours so we satisfy the ground level constraints, and we change the incentive using a combination of practical, political, and also insight from optimization models about how to maximize the potency of the incentive, particularly the financial ones. And at the end, basically, we analyze the result and decide which one is the one that best fits the needs. We also use a significant amount of the demand models. In essence, one of the most important impacts of off-hour deliveries is not only the benefit to the carriers and receivers, but also to the benefit to the city as a whole. Once delivery moves from the peak hours, from the day hours to the night hours, traffic congestion will decrease. And so will do pollution, et cetera, et cetera. We use the regional model that is managed by the Metropolitan Planning Organization to model the effects on a network level. And we also use data mining techniques to analyze the impacts on the participants. Using the GPS data that we have to post-process these gigantic data sets to determine what were the impacts on the participants. And we also always have to clean up the data because in some cases you get data that could be related to bouncing of signals and the like. Overall, this is basically the process that we follow. With that, I'm going to ask my colleague Stacy Hodge to...
Thank you. Thank you, Jose. So our participants are now able to make their deliveries in the off hour without impacts to pedestrians and cyclists, as I've mentioned. They can reduce their travel time being operating in the non-congested periods. They can have access to the curb without having to compete. And be able to make their deliveries in a faster time in the service time. This is Whole Foods, a location in Union Square, making their deliveries. So you can see there's no pedestrian conflicts here. They can move their product in and out of this truck without worrying about conflicts. This is a store in Soho, a retail clothing store. So in the daytime, there'd be a lot of pedestrians on this sidewalk. So by operating in the off hour, they can move a lot of product in on the sidewalk. So we've interviewed our participants to determine what they perceive to be the benefits. Staff productivity was one of the benefits of this particular store, Just Salad. They sell salads. And if the produce from the Hunts Point market was late, their staff would have nothing to prepare. But once they shifted to the off hour, the moment people showed up for work, they can start being productive. So they identified staff productivity as one of the benefits for them. Space is limited in Manhattan stores, and they identified a benefit of not having to hold a day and a half worth of inventory, but just a day's worth of inventory by having off-hour deliveries, because off-hour deliveries are more reliable. They can focus on their customers versus having to shift to focus on dealing with the delivery intake. The environment is more attractive, as you won't have double parked trucks out front, and they can provide an enhanced customer experience. Receivers saw benefits of improved speeds. A lot of our carriers come from New Jersey warehouses into Manhattan, and they saw an increase in their travel time from their origin to their destination. They also were able to handle the service at the location 3 times faster. So you saw me show you a picture before of the truck delivering to the hotel. Could have taken an hour and a half in the day, reduced to 20 minutes. So about 3 times faster service time in the off hour. So in summary, for carrier benefits, they can save about 1 to 3 hours per tour. There are fuel savings because they're not stuck in congestion, and no parking tickets. Remember that $750 to $1,000 per truck per month? No parking tickets in the off hour. They've averaged this out to be a 35 to 45% savings. So, regular travelers, the rest of us who are operating, we see benefits because you have less interaction with a truck during the day. With 30% participation in this program, all of the other users of this travel way would see 3 to 5 minutes travel time savings. This comes out to be $100 to $200 million per year in travel time savings. With over 400 participants, that's about $20 million per year. This slide shows the CO2 emissions of a regular hours versus off hour. In the off hour, the CO2 emissions are less, and you can make more stops if you're operating in the off hour. The blue line is the off hour path. Overall, air quality benefits for every receiver that is accepting off hour deliveries, they can eliminate over 6,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide and about 1,000 vehicle miles of travel in New York City. This compares 3 cities who have implemented off-hour deliveries: Bogota, New York City, and Sao Paulo. Bogota is doing off-hour deliveries between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m., whereas in New York City we're doing 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. If we look at the carbon dioxide column, in Bogota, even though they're having a smaller window, 6 to 10 p.m., they're seeing 13% emission reduction. New York City is seeing about 55% reduction. And all of them are seeing 30 to 45% reduction in delivery costs. This is an estimate of global emission impacts should off-hour deliveries at a 10% shift to the off-hour were to be done in other cities around the world, cities that are in the top 10 or top 25 of population, and those cities that have the highest population and the worst pollution in some of the developing countries would see some of the most significant improvements. Challenges: lease agreements. That was one of the big problems we had. Whole Foods had locations where they wanted to implement off-hour deliveries, but it was built into their lease that they could not do off-hour deliveries because residents don't believe we can do it quietly. Identifying a champion within the organization. A lot of times these managers get shifted to a new location. That means we have to retrain and re-educate a new champion at that private sector company. The perception about noise in the community, that was a barrier we had to overcome. The comfort of just doing things the way they are, the status quo, and getting people to want to change. And then funding for incentives, because the federal funding has ended, and we need to find new incentives if we want to give that $2,000 per location again. So what we're doing to address the main challenge of the noise, we've been doing noise demos with different vendors so that we can prove to the community that this can be done quietly. This slide, if we can go back, this slide shows a demo. It's a video animation of a demo we're doing right now in Soho. It will be a public-facing website. The yellow dot shows where the noise meter is. The public can log in and see the noise in real time. If there is an issue, they'll be able to email us at the DOT and DEP, and there are 3 cameras watching the block so we can see if there was a noise infraction, was it actually from one of our participants? Global impacts. We have been supported by the VREF Center, which is helping us to promote the off-hour deliveries all over the world. We have moved this or transported this program to Philadelphia. We have partners in Philadelphia who've reached out to us, and they've implemented it in Philadelphia. Washington, D.C. has reached out to us, and we've shared our lessons learned, and they've implemented this program in Washington. Toronto is developing a program right now, and they reached out to us, and they're currently working on their policy. Montreal, Canada has also contacted us, and we've shared our lessons learned with them so that they can develop a program. And we've had visitors actually come to us from Brazil. We do a lot of delegations at DOT. People want to learn about what we're doing. And Brazil has already implemented this pilot, as we've shared before. We've also had a delegation from China come and visit with us to share our lessons learned that they may take back to some of their communities in China. Worldwide impacts, we have been doing webinars and sharing this information with people from all around the world. Jose and I did the first webinar on off-hour deliveries in 2013, 159 participants, 16 countries. Then persons who we taught off-hour deliveries to had their webinars, Sao Paulo, Copenhagen, 25 countries and 211 participants listening in on them, and Bogota had 17 countries, 162 participants listening to their expert witness about lessons learned on off-hour deliveries. We've been written up and promoted in many magazines, including the Supply Chain Quarterly, but more importantly, we'd love you to hear from our own participants, and you will hear now from Dwayne Reed and Whole Foods.
When the New York City Department of Transportation invited Whole Foods Market to participate in the off-hour deliveries project, it was immediately apparent to us that there was synergy between the goals of the project and our own. Whole Foods Market is a mission-driven company, and caring for our communities is fundamental to that mission. Our region is a growing region. Since we first participated in the off-hour delivery pilot, we have opened beautiful new stores, and we have been able to implement the off-hour delivery model successfully. I have on occasion been asked by our partners at the Department of Transportation to be an advocate for off-hour deliveries. It has been my pleasure to do so. I have met with community partners, business partners, and other civic groups to testify to the benefits that Whole Foods Market has experienced with the off-hour delivery model.
Well, there are multiple challenges. This is a wonderful city, but it's a challenging environment. The density makes it very difficult to get to our stores, particularly during the day hours where there is a lot of pedestrian and vehicular traffic. So that is our primary concern. It is also very noisy, and it's challenging in terms of not only getting to the stores, but getting product from our vehicles into the store. And because of the limited real estate, we also have some challenges getting product onto our shelves. So across the board, it's extremely challenging and an exciting environment. About 10 years ago, we were doing 100% of our deliveries during business hours, generally defined as 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And over the last 10 years, we have slowly begun to shift, and we are currently doing 70% of our deliveries from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So we're really excited and proud of the progress that we've made in that area. We want to be great environmental stewards. We want to be great corporate citizens. And we are super proud at the leadership and the vision that New York City Department of Transportation has provided to us.
So in summary, the implementation of this program has been an incremental approach. The impact has benefits ranging from 100 million to 200 million. Technical solutions include using OR and MS solutions, GPS, and noise monitoring. The difficulty, yes. Perseverance, start with easier locations if you're having a barrier at one location. Transportability, it is something that can be implemented in other places. And measure your benefits so that you can explain and garner new champions. Build coalitions with a broad base of stakeholders. There is ample opportunity to find win-win-win-win strategies that impact all of the stakeholders. And off-hour deliveries can help you reach your goal of transforming your city into a world-class city. Thank you.